In this pot, I have a cup of jasmine rice with 2 1/4 cups of water. I'm going to bring this to a boil. If you want, you can add a few drops of food coloring at this stage, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add the coloring when the water is boiling. For the corned beef stew, you need some ingredients. Here I have half teaspoon of minced garlic, half teaspoon of grated fresh ginger, half teaspoon of ground nutmeg. I have some chili powder that I'll be using, but not all of this, about half teaspoon too. I'll be using some avocado oil, and I have the star ingredient for the stew, which is corned beef. You can use any brand of corned beef. And I have a cup of onion. You do not have to use as much onion as I'm using today. You can use half cup, 1/4 cup, but I like my corned beef stew with a lot of onion. And then you have half teaspoon of black ground pepper. I have some Himalayan salts that I like to use, but any other salt of your choice is okay. I like to use a combination of fresh tomatoes and canned tomato. So here I have 1.5 cups of fresh tomato that I blended up. You can leave it in chunks and that's fine. So if you have canned tomatoes, you can equally use that. And I have a can of tomato sauce, and I'll be using about half cup of this tomato sauce in making the stew. In this pot, I have about half cup of oil that has been heated up. Into that, I'm going to add the onion, and stir it all up. So I'll let this cook for about a minute or two. Then I'll go ahead and add my other ingredients. I'm adding the minced garlic, the ginger, and the nutmeg. And I'll add the black pepper as well. I'll stir this together for about a second. Then add my blended tomato, fresh tomato. And into that, I'm going to pour in half a cup of the tomato sauce. This should be about good. And I'll add my chili pepper. We like it spicy around here, so don't add as much chili pepper if you cannot take the heat. So I'm going to stir, lower the heat, then let it boil for about 10 minutes. I started my rice cooking with 1 cup of jasmine rice and 2 1/4 cups of water, but it looks like I will need extra water, so I just added 1 cup of water. So depending on the type of rice that you are using, you might have to adjust the water accordingly. So I'm going to add some drops of green food coloring into I was planning on adding a few drops of green food coloring, but unfortunately for me, my bottle is a huge one and then the opening is too big. So I decided to go with 1/4 teaspoon of the food coloring. I didn't get it all the way to the top, but I'm going to add that and then stir it around. So it depends on how green you want your rice to be. You might have to add some more food coloring. If you do not feel comfortable using a food coloring, you can blend up any green vegetable. Try to squeeze out as much water as possible and then put it into your rice. I know some people are not comfortable using these food colorings in foods. So now I'm going to lower the heat and cover it till it's cooked. So here you have green rice that is going to be going very well with the corned beef stew I'm making. The stew has been boiling for about 5 minutes. I did put the timer on. So I'm going to stir it, and I've been stirring it from time to time. So it's a great idea to stir from time to time to know how it's cooking. And also, I haven't added any salts yet because I want to add the corned beef, as the corned beef has a lot of salt. So it's a great idea to add the corned beef, taste the stew, and know whether you need to add any additional salts to your corned beef stew. After 10 minutes of cooking the stew, I'm going to be adding the whole can of corned beef into it. When we made corned beef stew growing up, we used a lot of oil, as we were many in the family, and then it stretched the stew. But right now, I don't like to cook with a lot of oil. So the half cup of oil that I began with is more than enough. So after adding the corned beef, I'll stir it around. It smells so good. And taste to see. This will need a little bit of salt. But for those who don't like too much salt, that should be okay. So I'm going to be adding some Himalayan salt here. Going to be adding some Himalayan salt. So start with a bit at a time and then taste as time goes. So I'm going to stir this and just let it cook till I feel the salt has dissolved. I'll taste, then take it off fire. So you see, very easy to make corned beef stew. You can vary your peppers and your salts and it will come back great. And any type of corned beef, canned corned beef, should be good to make the stew. After an extra 5 minutes of cooking at low heat, making sure that the salt has dissolved, my corned beef stew is ready, and the rice, my green rice, is about ready here. So this is gonna be a very great St. Patrick's Day feast. Green rice with corned beef stew. I'll put it all together shortly. There you have the finished product. Corned beef stew to go with green rice. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all my viewers. But remember, this corned beef stew goes with a host of other dishes like rice and beans, yams, potatoes, and so on.